Welcome to my apiary. Here's an annual spectacle that is worth the price of admission. And this to me is worth buying this dry pollen substitute just so you can witness this. The bees are very gentle when foraging this, more gentle than they are foraging on open syrup. And the sound is incredible. The spectacle is incredible. The wind has died down here, thankfully, so they're able to get in, pick up some dry supplement, and take it home. Baby food. Got to feed the babies. Got to brood up. And look at them wallow in this stuff. They just like a bunch of little pigs. Get all covered and then they fly away. It's hilarious. Okay, this is, it's actually Good Friday. I'm trying not to do too much work, but this is the first day that I can really get in here and open up these colonies. I try to get my apivar in 1st of April, and today is April the 2nd, so I'm a day behind already. But yesterday was okay, but the wind was just terrible. And I should not have started to make this video because as soon as I do that, the wind comes up. And you can't hear me. But it's 10C out here. Without that wind, it's actually a pretty decent day. I'm not in shorts yet, but I considered it. So today is adding some pollen patties. They're supplement. They're not actually pollen. Protein, so protein substitute, and I've got two kinds I'll show you, and plus I need to add the apivar that I mentioned. I've got two kinds of patties here. One is a Man Lake Ultra Bee patty, and one is you buy it as a dry product and then you mix it with syrup, pack it away in bags. That is an All-Tech bee pollinate. I used that last year. They seemed to really like it. And I just had not quite enough to do this year, so I bought some Ultra Bee, which I've used every year previous. These are a nice patty. They're fairly soft, but not too soft. I keep these in my building so they're warm, when I come out, and they're not terribly cold when I put them on the hive. Then I have the apivar to get rid of those little varroa mites. For the apivar, I just kind of slice the package. It opens real easy, and then you can see the plastic strips inside. The package here says there are 50 strips. Okay? The instructions say you add 1 strip per 5 frames of bees. If we're assuming that these colonies have 10 frames of bees, which they don't, but if we're assuming that they soon will, then you need 2 strips. They're kind of hard to rip apart, but you need to rip them apart. You can put a little toothpick or a nail or something through the hole in the top, or you can use the little tab. Some think the tab should go on top of the frame thusly. Some think the tab should stick into the comb just below the top bar. I've seen both suggestions. What the manufacturer has in mind, I'm not sure. Okay. I like to clean up this comb, so I'll just use this box as a catch-all. Or I should say a catch most, or some. Okay, so this is a pretty good hive. We've got quite a few bees. And I'm going to put 2 strips of apple-var in here. Got to put it in where the bees are going to rub on it. The physical contact thing. You put that one in the slot, leave 2 empty slots, and then put the next one kind of staggered a bit. That way you're covered when the cluster inevitably will move a bit. I'm trying to use the stick that thing in the comb theory with these. Let's see how that works. I've often used a toothpick in there, and that works great. It's just really finicky and fussy to put together. I might put 2 of these bee pollinates on here. They're not very big. I'll just leave it like that. Don't smush them. Put that lid back on. Alright, so that's 1. 99 to go. Well, that's not very interesting. I don't imagine. So that's 2 done, 98 to go. That stuff stays in there for 42 days and then another 2 weeks before I can put honey super on it. That's why I need to do it today. Because April 1st in means June 1st is my first day for honey supers. And we'll be into a dandelion flow by then. Dandelion flow is generally consumed by the bees, but it's still in the honey super. So I really need to get that apple-var done. You know, it breaks down in that time frame and it doesn't contaminate the honey or the honey supers after that. Okay, here's something you might find interesting. This colony, very, very tiny. This is a 2019 queen. It's a little bit old, and I suspect they had a bit of open feed in there, which really doesn't do them any good in the winter. What I've done is I've taken 4 frames that they were on and put them in this little Nuke box. Okay, you can see the little cluster there. Very small, but there's brood. There's a laying queen. Okay, that's what I need. So here's one of my screen boards, my double screen boards, inspired by Bob Binney. I respectfully call them my Binney boards. So what I've done here, it's a little different than Bob's. It's much smaller. Our climate is much colder, and I don't think in this climate the larger area, it maybe is a little bit too big for us. I put my entrance to the rear, so we have this colony entrance here, and then the Nuke will have entrance in the back. I had that on there, so there's bees. My strips on the side are removable, so it makes for a little bit trickier to set up, but I can use this for 10 frame box, 6 frame box, 4 frame, or one of my poly boxes. I can just move those side to side as I have different size of box. So put this back up on there, and so now that little Nuke will get some heat from that colony. The downside is it's not insulated like those. So it's kind of a judgment call on my part. I wish it was insulated, but I think they'll benefit anyway. So 7/8 box is actually pretty warm. Look what's going on over here. This has gotten far more intense since I started. Well, they're robbing syrup that's leaking out of these pails. But look at this calamity. That's incredible. And I'm here with my bare hand holding this camera. And they're banging into my hand, they're walking on me. They're not aggressive though. They're so focused on that forage. They're just everywhere. Look, I spilled some here earlier, so they're everywhere, picking it up. I'll leave them to it. Well, happy Easter. It's April the 4th. And yes, I know it's Easter Sunday. I feel that the ox is in the well a little bit. Forecast is rain tomorrow. Today's forecast is very nice. It's, I think, 11C now. It's not even noon. So I have to make some progress on feeding and apple bar. I've got about half of these done now. And yeah, I could probably do them all in one day, maybe 2 days, but I keep being called away from my duties here. So that's all I'm going to be doing here today. Might be lifting some more weak ones on top of strong ones, benny boards, etc. So I'll show you that if that indeed happens. The feeding frenzy is still going on with the dry supplement. Boy, they're making a mess of it over there. To start off, I'm going to do something that you might find interesting. You may recall I wintered 4 minis. I took my mini mating nukes and I put one on top of the other, and I wintered 4 queens in there. So I'll show you the configuration here. One colony didn't make it. Last I looked, the other 3 were still going. So I want to make sure they have everything they need. I don't want them to starve, and you know, I think they're low on ventilation. I think I need to give those minis some ventilation holes or something. So we'll look at that. It's right here in front of me, and we'll see what's going on in there. Okay, I know you can't see me, but I don't have my veil up yet. These little guys are so gentle, often I don't need it. And it's nice to not have that screen in front of your face. One of these is dead. I'm not sure which one. It's not that one. Okay, so let's have a look here. Okay, this frame has plenty of stores. Okay, so that's really nice. I likely won't dig to the bottom box. I need to unwrap and take everything apart. I'll just look at the top. We'll see what the dealio is. So lots of stores here. Now there's open feed here, and I think that's probably the jar I had on them. They've stored some of that away. So that's good. They've got excess then. They're not just consuming it as fast as they access it. Also got some stored syrup here, stored syrup there. These are my May queens. These are queens I can use for some early splits in May. So they've got lots of syrup stored here. Some capped stores from last fall. Brace comb they build. I put the frames back together and it kind of mashes the bees. You want to mash bees, but you certainly don't want to mash the queen. They are a little flighty. I might have to do my veil up. That's very heavy.
just completely filled with stores. I would say they're doing good. I don't know what the bottom looks like, and that fact is going to remain because I'm not going to take anything apart down there. Because I need to pull all 4 apart, take the wrap off. It's a huge deal. Just try to put this back on and mash as few bees as possible. So I didn't see a queen, I didn't see any brood, so that has yet to be seen in these. Okay, look in this one. Oh, this one is even more populous. That's really nice. I've got my veil up, I don't have it zippered, but I walked across the yard and they were banging into me. That's lots of stores on that one. I don't see any stored syrup yet. It's so much easier to see eggs when you don't have your veil up. I'm not tipped to the sun quite right, but there's nothing in those cells. So this one hasn't stored syrup like the other one, not that I've seen yet anyway. There's the queen. You can see my blue queen there, 2020. I see a little bit of capped brood, some mature larvae, etc. So she's laying, and they've got capped brood on this side too. Alright, so we've got a nice viable little colony going here. It looks like what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna leverage the dead out that I have. It's one of these two, because some of these frames are really quite empty. I'll shake that off. If there's no brood in that, I will remove it and try to find a heavier frame in the dead out. See, this has a little bit in it. Still not very much. This is the dead out. Yeah, there's a nice feed frame. And that has some too. A little bit of feed on that. Okay. So try to shake these. And I'll just store them in the dead out. I know the queen isn't on these frames. It's this frame. Put that frame there. It's got some feed, some open, and then the other side has got a lot of feed on it. So this feed frame is a pretty good feed frame. Came out of here. Put that right next to it. And, oh yeah, it was this one. Lots of feed on that one. So that's a nice queen. She's looking good. She's laying. I'm going to put a mark on here with my pen. I'm just going to remind me that I've seen a queen and I've seen brood. This has a nice little cluster. That's got a lot of feed in it, but it's not drawn quite out here. It's okay at this point. I really don't like sending a colony into winter with anything that's not drawn, because they really need all that space for winter stores. Lots of feed here. So there's the queen. She's not marked, so I may just mark her. I see some eggs and very young larvae there. she's laying. I can't mark that queen, I don't have my blue pen handy. You look at a frame like this, there's open cells, but there's hardly any bees on them. They've actually stored some liquid feed in there. But there's a big clump of bees here. But I don't see even eggs in there, let alone larvae. So I guess she's just started laying. But she is laying. She's got a lot of feed, so she doesn't have oodles of space. Maybe I'll give her some space, eh? She's safely in there. Put an empty frame right beside the tiny patch of brood. So this is really good news. These queens will likely, barring any flash super cold weather, they should be just fine. Got that bee cozy on there, so I'll mark that as well, that I saw a queen and I saw brood. Just a tiny bit, but I did see brood. We need to put the queen back in here. How about that? That'll bode well for their future. Climbing around on the outside of it. It's too bad we lost that one, but this is a proof of concept. Can this happen? And the answer to that is yes. I mean, I got another month before I could really say yes, because they could just die yet. But I don't think they will. Might as well work this little nuke that's right next to them. Not a lot of bees on the pail. There's a little bit of syrup in that pail. Let's see what's going on. This is a smaller one that I had moved into the wintering building during the cold weather. They actually look pretty good right now. So they don't look like a colony I'd be worried about at this point, but you know, I guess I was. So I'm going to take that sugar cake off. We'll give them a patty and a strip of apivar. Welcome back to the wood shop, finally. Remember these little guys? I've got to make a boatload of these little mini mating nuke frames. Okay? These actually I put together last year. And if you want to know how many of these I need to build, because I need to get cracking because there's a lot, I need to build this many. There are 600 bottom bars here. I need to cut each one of these in two. So that's 1,200. Then I have to build the nukes. I have to build quad nukes. I have to build single nukes. So it's going to be busy. I'm going to be busy here for a month. So here's the mini frame with the little half-size bottom bar. And kind of the bad part about this is it's not quite half size. So I need to cut these not only once, I have to cut them twice. So I have to cut 8 inches from this end, and I have to cut 8 inches from this end, which is going to leave, you know, an inch or something in the middle. And so what happens is I cut that like this. I'll cut that right here to the length of that bottom bar, and then I'll cut it again there, and then I have to mill the cut end to be like the factory end with the little rabbits. Alright. Next thing, I have to make sure I remember to turn these around. Wouldn't it be stupid to cut the end off of this? Then I'd be milling that cut end twice. And I would be milling 2 cut ends, I should say. Alright, double check the work. Everything's all in the right place, 8 inches long. There we go. I think I'm going to downscale that a little bit. I'd like to be able to hold it with my hand in one piece. I'm going to cut back. These jigs, you always have to make sure you don't have, it's not full of sawdust and it's holding it back from the fence. Okay, here we go. Now I can hold the cut end here, which is smarter anyway. I could probably hold the cut end the first time too. It's just one thing about having my hand between a fence and a blade. It's just, you know. So one too many courses here because I couldn't hold the back one, and that's why it cut and it took off. So I'll run a few fewer than that. I've cut all my bottom bars in two. Apologize, I've worked ahead here a little bit. I've just used my dado blade here, and I've run the bottom bars, both sides, over the dado blade to make the rabbeted ends, just like the factory ends. The top bars are not a modified top bar at all. So I'm starting with lumber that's 7/8. I'll use these bottom bars as a visual. Top bars are similar, just longer. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to cut the plank. I've got a plank here, it's 8 feet long. So I'll cut this off like this, cut them in 9-inch wide pieces on my miter saw. And then I'm going to run all of my rabbets for the top bar in that wide piece, so I can run those nicely all together. And then once I have that, then I'll have a piece that looks a lot like this, and then I take that in the table saw and I start cutting pieces off it. Okay, so when that comes out, I've done that rip cut, that's called a rip cut. I'll have these with no groove. So then with the rip blade adjusted properly, I'll cut that groove in the top bar. Okay, I've cut 63 pieces here, and I can get 18 from each piece, and that means I need 62 and 1/9 pieces for this project. Some of them won't yield 18 pieces because of knots. It's pretty nice lumber though. I mean, look at this stuff. It's so nice. So I need to run 4 rabbets on every one of these pieces. That's what I'm going for. This end bar fits on there nicely, consistently. So what I'm doing now is taking these suckers, I'm going to run them through the saw. So the top bars have to be 1/2 inch wide. So I've set my saw fence to 1/2 inch from the blade, and these just simply get run through as they are, what I've set up here as an outfeed is I've got a couple things sitting here just to keep them going straight down the outfeed table, and they fall into a garbage bin I have sitting there, so I don't have to deal with the offcuts. They're gonna all end up in that pail at the end. So I'll cut a few here and you can see how this goes. So that took a long time. This is like 3 or 4 days later. So I got all of those pieces through. I filled up these boxes. These boxes hold, I'll show you all the boxes here in a second. They hold 210 pieces each. And this many in this box, and I've done a few test pieces of the next run here already. So just quickly, you can see the boxes here of top bars. I've got 5 boxes full. There's 210 in every box. So I'm shooting for 1100. I'll have spares because I need all of those plus 50 pieces, and I've got probably 100 pieces. You can hardly see the blade at all. Maybe from your perspective you can't see it at all. That blade is hardly sticking up there at all. I've got the fence set so that that top bar runs right in the center over the blade, and it just goes right through there like that. Just cuts a very shallow little groove in that. So I'll run a few here and you can see how this is going. You can really whistle through this stuff because you're hardly taking any off, and this is a 3 horsepower saw. This saw will cut almost anything. You can see what a nice job it's doing there. The next job to make these minis is I have to cut out the foundation. And this is medium black right cell, but it's not that hard to find. You can usually special order it through your bee supply if you need it. What you really need to watch for is normally in a piece of wood you would cut down and then through it. You can't do that with these. If you try to do that with these, and ask me how I know this, when you slide that through, by the time you get close to the end, that blade is coming up through that like that. And because these are laminations, it's not a solid piece, it'll lift this piece, it'll catch in here, and it'll go boom and head off across the shop. So you need to cut this backwards, to be honest. So I want to start here so that when it cuts this top one, the blade is going this way and not up, whereas over here. And then I want to cut all the way through and come back. Okay, so I'm going to do that now, and you can see. It's always good practice to wait till the blade stops to rise it up. It can catch and throw things if you don't. So today I'm milling these end bars because what we start out with is an 1 3/8 end bar, wide. And when you put 5 frames in half a box, so you have a standard box, you put a divider down the center, standard 10 frame box I should say, and when you put 5 frames on each side, it gets pretty tight. So as a convenience measure, I mill these to 1.25 inches, and this one's already been milled, and you can probably see the difference right from there. And it's a very, very slight difference. It's 1/8 of an inch, 1/16 of an inch off each side, and that's the trick. Is I can't just cut one side easily through the table saw to make 1.25 inches, because then my groove is not going to be in the middle. I can't just cut these on the table saw and take a 1/16 off and then flip them over and take another 1/16, because then I have to adjust the fence. So I need to cut 2,200 of these. So I'll need to adjust the fence accurately 2,200 times, or I need to cut them all one side, keep track of which way up they are, and then cut them again the second side. We all know that's not going to happen. So I made a jig. I made a sled, actually. I made 3 sleds. And I'm going to show you how those work right now. Okay, you can see I've done a lot of cutting already. Kind of proof of concept. This is the first time I've used this kind of a sled design. And these are my sleds. Pretty simple. I just cut those blocks out of a piece of 2x4. I glued them on there. I glued them on there very accurately as I could. That block is right in the center of this piece of plywood. The length of this isn't important. The distance between those is. And the size, these are sized very accurately. I'll show you why. What happens here is this frame sits on there. Some of them fit a little tighter than others. That one's fairly loose, but it stays in there. And in fact, it'll carry 3. Okay, so I can cut 3 at a time through the saw. You can see the saw blade is raised quite a ways. And this sled is 1.25 inches wide. And I can feel that the frames are wider than the sled. So what happens is I run this through between my fence and my featherboard. Thusly, the featherboard keeps it tight against the fence, and the saw takes off that 1/16 of an inch off of one side. I flip it around, run it through again, takes the 1/16 off the other side. Now this is called an L fence. I've got it clamped to my standard rip fence here, and the reason I need to run an L fence is, particularly the first time through, this frame is protruding past the sled. Okay, so I need to reference the sled, not the frame. So I need a fence that's no higher than this. As far as assembly goes for the little frames, it's pretty well identical to the standard size frames. However, I have a little bit of a difficulty in that my jig is too big. You know, my little frame is only this wide, so I have no support for this side here. I've thought about how to modify this jig to be convertible for both frames, but I think I'm going to build an entirely new jig for these tiny frames.
14th of April, and we've just gone through 2 straight days of heavy wind and heavy snow. I think we have more snow now than we have received all winter here. It's hard to see, where the drifts are because it's all white. But you can see on my 1 ton here how deep that drift is. Again, perspective is difficult, I'm sure, but there's a lot of this snow. There's the drifts are pretty high, pretty deep. I've just moved the truck out of its parking stall there, the other side of the van, and I'm just warming up a little bit. That north wind is sure cold. Look at the snow, look at the ice. The temperatures have not been desperately cold, which I'm thankful for. There's lots of snow, and these bees are creating heat, so the fact that the temperatures have not been far below zero means that they've been melting the snow off of the hives themselves. And looking at these entrances, I don't think I have much to worry about. Look how clear they are. There's a little shelf of snow there, but it's clear underneath that. See? It's all melted away. The ground was warm. The ground was not frozen. So you can see the ground under there. There's even a little bit of green grass. So I really don't think I have an issue here. I will check each one though. Look at the pollen feeder. 4 days ago there was a flurry of activity there. Now she's just abandoned and covered in snow. There was a couple looked a bit like this. So there's ice here. They're not locked in or anything, so they'll be fine. So this is kind of the culmination of a few weeks of work. It hasn't taken me a few weeks to build these frames. I've done a lot more work for this project, this order. This is one of the most exciting jobs. The apiary is abuzz today. It's the 17th of April 2021. This is my first real foray into the apiary since our snowstorm early this past week. And I'm not going to do too much out here. I just want to get a handle on what's going on. But while I'm here, it's not windy. It's not particularly warm, but it's not windy. So I'm gonna hazard a check at some of these frames. That's heavy. That's very nice.
there's my green queen for 2019. Here's the story frame. So what does this story frame tell you? She's got this laid loosely in drones. It's not packed, but there's a lot of drones there. That side too, and a nice patch of worker brood as well. And I'm actually seeing a few drones walking around. It's very exciting for the 17th of April in my part of the world. So I have this capped brood here. Outside the capped brood is, well, there's some larva that's a few days old and some eggs. It doesn't look like the recent cold weather snapped this one back much, if at all. So there's some calf brood, some eggs, young larvae. This brood nest looks fantastic. This will definitely be a swarm candidate. So a close eye on this is what I will have to keep. I'll go find a pail or something.
This has got to stop. It's April 21st, 2021. It's a Wednesday. I haven't been out here since Saturday. It's been cold again. It's 10 or 12 C now. It's about 4:30 in the afternoon. And the apiary is abuzz. Very nice to see. The forecast is good for tomorrow too, but then again another cool off. So we get a couple days warm and we get a bunch of days cold. It's still April. There are very, very few bees taking interest in that pollen substitute. And that means the natural pollen is coming in. Well, there's one. There's one on my arm with a little bit of very tan pollen. Remember this one? There wasn't much in it, and I put newspaper and queen excluder. Look at the bees. Okay, there's something crazy going on here. I have no protection on, so I need to be very careful. Look at that. There was almost nothing in here. Okay, I need to leave them alone. I can't dig in there, I have nothing. I don't even have a hive tool in my hand. That's quite amazing, isn't it? That's 5 days. That might be the strong colony below just coming up for syrup. Who knows? Well, if that's what it is, so be it, right? So that's 20 of those quad minis ready for dipping. And less than 20 bottom boards. 3/8 shim, a couple of cleats. Pretty standard stuff. I got lots to do in the wood shop, but I had a special request for the apiary today. See how they're doing. I'm curious too. I really want to see what's going on in that thing. Okay, Ian wanted to see in this hive. So, first of all, check this out. Look at that. Isn't that neat? Ask me to show you how to do that sometime. So I gotta do this one-handed, so I better not get too cocky, I suppose. Get this jar off of here again. Bees everywhere, still. It's like an idiot, I didn't bring my tripod. Okay, let's dig in, see what's going on. Bees everywhere, I know that. This was a queen and about 20 bees 6 days ago. I put it over newspaper in a queen excluder, and this is what we have today. I'm not sure if I'm gonna see a queen. They might have killed her, I don't know. I don't know if they get an influx of that many bees that quickly. If they'll do that queen in or not, I don't know. These are kind of all at the top. There's not as many bees in here as it would have appeared. Really seeing nothing in the combs. So nothing crazy going on here, just a bunch of bees, really. Where's the queen is what I'm wondering. There was a queen here. If they've gone through that newspaper, you can't see, it's too dark in there. No. I've got a little pile of dead bees here. There's a few there. So maybe they had a mighty battle and cleaned out the other colony. I don't see anything that looks like a queen.